With a wonderful world of games.
Alright, you beautiful peoples of the interwebs, Glyn here, Cheapskate Gaming, and this is just a roundup of my top 8 games from my wonderful World of Games season, where I've got to I've got to 50 episodes, and I thought I'd round up 8 games which I found were the best, or I found were the most enjoyable. So this is just me, but they are really good games, and we'll just go along, and that's my intro. Okay, we'll go and check out the games. Here we go. Okay, first up on my list, and these are in no particular order, one of the games I really enjoyed was this Supraland game, where you basically play as a it's hard to explain really. You play as a little plasticine man inside of I think it's a giant sandbox, literally a skid sandbox, but the puzzles in it are actually really tricky, and the combat is good, and as you can see, it's done in a first person perspective. It's got a little bit of Mario going in there, there's a little bit of Zelda thrown in there, and it's actually a really good 3D action puzzle game. I really enjoyed Supraland, and again, this was picked up for less than $3. It's far less than that. I think there's a couple of quid for this one, if that, and you're going to get hours and hours of gameplay. And I literally started playing it, I was still playing it 4 hours later. Really good, really good. So that's the first one on my list. Let's move onward to the next one. Right, next up is this game called Polytopia. It's a really good little strategy game. Looks simple graphical sort of outlay on it, that sort of isometric 3D look to it, but really good strategy game. You can play it online, you can choose how many enemies you want to fight against. It's got a great little what I like about it is it don't take too long to play each game. You know, like play a game of Civilization, you can be weeks, hundreds of hours. This thing is all done and dusted in about 15-20 minutes. You have a limited number of moves. One of the game modes is you do it within 30 moves, so that's sort of like if you've got a quick half hour to play a game, this one really scratches that sort of strategy sort of god game itch. Then really enjoyed it. Okay, so that's Polytopia, and that's on my list of 8 of the best games from my list of 50 games. The Battle of Polytopia. One of my most addictive games was this one, Equilinox. It was so addictive. This is another sort of god sim game, but you're basically playing with wildlife and DNA, and basically making a life come alive on a sort of randomized 3D piece of land. You fish, everything. As I say, you see everything grow. I started playing this. I thought I wasn't going to enjoy it. I was still playing it 24 hours later. It literally took over my life. It was like crack cocaine for me. Brilliant, really good. I say, I didn't even think it was going to be a game I was going to play for more than an hour. And literally 24 hours later, I wasn't playing anything else. I was coming in, I was just putting this game on. I was determined. I did everything. I 100%ed the game. I got every single species unlocked. So that was Equilinox, definitely worth a play. And again, this one was even less than £1 to pick up. So this is Elderborn. I love this game. It was first person, and essentially it's like a Dark Souls game where you've got to parry the attacks and then attack after you've parried. And it was just beautifully set up. It was like a full-on AAA game. It really is really good. It's got puzzles in there as well. Can get pretty hard, pretty intense. You've got an old RPG thing going on. Great aesthetic, great graphics. Just really enjoyed this. Another one that I couldn't put down. So that is Elderborn on playing it on Steam. Great game. Here's another game I loved, and I just didn't put it down until I finished, and that is Art of Gravity. It's a puzzle game. It's set in a 3D sort of... it has this voxel element to it where everything smashes, as you can see in the background here, and all the things smash to pieces. And if there's 2 things I love, it's destroying stuff and 3D voxels, and this brings them both together in the Art of Gravity. Dead cheap, less than £1 straight off Steam. So this is a bonkers full of action game. If you like Borderlands, this game is going to be right up your street. It's more of a like Borderlands is obviously an open story. This is more of a sort of roguelike version of Borderlands. It is bonkers. So it's roguelike. It's bonkers. It's really good. It just, once you start playing, it just drags you in, and it's non-stop action from start to finish, with great boss battles and all that sort of thing going on. So that's another one of my games. I absolutely love this game. Really good. And again, graphically, nothing stopping it from being a AAA game. I'd like to see this one redeveloped into a AAA game. I could make it really good. It could even put like a PvE mode in there, 4-player co-op, and turn it into something a lot more than what it is. Although as it is, that's fantastic for the small amount of money you'll pay for it. So another game that caught me a bit by surprise was this one, Riot Civil Unrest. And essentially you can control either the police or the rioters, and it actually has a lot of history. There's a lot of information, factual information that it's based on, and it's actually really good. Where if you're the police, you're trying not to get too many protesters killed. If you're the protesters, you're trying to keep the public on your side by not doing too much killing. So although it's a game about violence and craziness, in a way you've got to manage that while you play, and each faction plays so differently as well. Like the police are very structured and organised, whereas the rioters are sort of in mass groups that move together. Really enjoyed this game. It's addictive, and again, it's one of those games where you can play in about 15 or 20 minutes. Now this is the last one. This is number 8, and this was an interesting one. It's called Vane, and essentially you play a bird, essentially a crow or a corvid. You can turn into the little girl as well, so you can switch between the two. And I never quite fully understand what you're doing, but how you're doing it, really good. There's a lot of flying about. It's almost got a sort of like an airplane game mechanic. And then as you see, the world behind you changes as you develop the game. There are some puzzles that you've got to play as you play the little girl, and you've also got some puzzles that you've got to play as you play in the crow. But very interesting, very good stylistic graphics. Enjoy the stylistic. Great shadowing and lighting. Beautifully developed game. Very close to being a AAA game, actually. So that's Vane. Definitely worth picking up. And again, another game that you can pick for just over £1. I mean, you can't go wrong with stuff like this. You spend hours of entertainment for less than £1. Right, guys, so thank you for joining me on this little journey of my top 8 games out of the 50 that I've already had a quick look at. Some real bangers in there. I mean, every one of those games, if you need some cheap, if you've got a £10 budget and you want to buy a load of games cheaply, definitely consider those particular 8. I mean, a lot of those games, when I started to play them, I thought, oh, this isn't really my sort of game. Once I started playing it, it was just like, oh, I can't put this down until I finished it. Especially things like Equilinox, Riot. They're not normally my style of game, but from that, I've actually opened myself to a whole sort of different and newer genre that I wouldn't normally play. And of course, there are some games that I really do enjoy, like the Borderlands style RoboQuest. I knew I was going to enjoy that from the day one, and it didn't let me down. Supraland was really good as well. Anyway, you aren't going to be seeing me much for the next 3 months or so, 3 or 4 months. My work starts, my normal work, so I'll be very, very busy on that. And essentially, I won't get time, and I'll be away a lot. I simply won't get time to do any videos. I literally get 1 or 2 hours off, and I've got to go to sleep ready for the next 12-hour shift. So you don't need to know about that. All you need to know is that I won't be around very much for the next 3 or 4 months. Hopefully winter 2023 will be a better winter than the last one, because to be honest, I didn't really enjoy much AAA games last year. This is why I've started playing these smaller games. I get more enjoyment out of them. Anyway, this has been Glyn, Cheapskate Gaming, and hopefully we'll see you all soon. Stay safe now, guys.